Assalamu alaikum. One of the names of Allah is peace. Assalam. I want to talk to you today about peace in our hearts, peace between people, and peace among the nations. I teach peace at Amsterdam University College. I teach 2 classes, human rights, human security, and an odd month-long class called Peace Lab. It's odd because it's supposed to be a qualitative research methods fieldwork class. So I take students to Kosovo in June and to Rwanda in January. And we place ourselves under the authority of local peace builders who teach us how to heal deeply divided societies, which, when you think about it, we all sort of come from these days. Now, peace, oh goodness. Peace is often portrayed as weak. The symbol for peace is the white dove. And historically, peace is much more prevalent, much stronger, much more robust, much more courageous than any special military operation or situation or invasion or occupation or terrorist action or whatever you want to call violence. Violence sparks and then dies. Peace is built brick by brick, like a fortress to protect us. Now, I recently returned from Rwanda with a group of 12 students from 11 different backgrounds, where we learned about peacekeeping, peacemaking, and peace building. Now, you probably already know this, but there's not always a connection between democracy and peace. Rwanda is not a democracy, and yet the people share one identity. Their children go to school together, they play sports together, the people worship together, they adopt each other's children, they intermarry. They share a language. So I asked a taxi driver in Kigali how he felt about the Rwandan elections that are coming up this year in 24. And he said he was happy. And I said, why are you happy? And he said, because we already know who's going to win. And I was like, okay. Why are you happy that you already know who's going to win? And he said, because we never dreamed that we would be this prosperous, that we would have fair health care, that our children could go to such good schools, that we would have more women in parliament than any country in the world. Kosovo, on the other hand, is a democracy. They declared independence in 2008. And yet, the Serbian and Albanian communities hardly mix at all. There's very little intermarriage. They don't worship together. Their children don't go to school together. They don't play sports together. They don't share a language. They don't even share an alphabet. Now, Peace Lab students have gone on to work as diplomats, to work in NGOs all over the world. They've started their own NGOs. They often use sports as a peace-building tool. So they play football and rugby and fencing. I actually have a student right now who's researching ultimate frisbee tournaments in northern Iraq, where Kurdish, Iraqi, and Yazidi children with a refugee background come together. Now, most of you are actually too old to teach about peace, and my generation is certainly too old, so we focus on the 3 to 5-year-olds. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. But in my human rights, human security class, students have to do an indigenous rights simulation. And this is based on visits that I made to a community in eastern Oregon in the US. It's the Umatilla, Cayuse, and Walla Walla Native American tribes. And in that community, the 3 to 5-year-olds are the heroes. And they're heroes because the Umatilla language was dying out. And only a few elderly people could still speak it. So they taught it to the preschoolers, and these little ones taught it to their older brothers and sisters who taught it to their parents. And now, the Umatilla language is thriving, and they even have their own dictionary. Yeah. Now that particular community feels that their peace is directly interrelated with the level of agency exercised by their young people. Yeah, and they also feel that they receive peace from their ancestors, who manifest in the trees and the light and the water and the animals around them. And their symbol for peace is the white egret, which is a large water bird, like the blue heron. About 5 years ago, I started seeing white egrets here in the Netherlands, and now every time I sight one, I think, peace is coming. Open hearts really do open minds. Peace Lab students learn how to trust in the kindness of strangers, how to trust their own hearts, how to trust in the process of peace building. We build peace brick by brick, and we use impact as a filter. I send my students out looking for controversy. In human rights class, we start with baby steps. They have to identify a people group that they don't spend time with, and then they have to go hang out with them. And we practice shutting up and listening. I think the skill of disagreeing with respect and doing it with the goal of deeper understanding rather than trying to convince someone of your point of view, I think this skill is the most important life skill that we can learn. So let me tell you a story about the Kosovo Women's Network. It's headed up by a woman named Ego. And Ego tells the story that after the Kosovo conflict, she took a team to Belgrade, Serbia, to meet with the Serbian Women's Network called Women in Black. And when Ego and her team arrived in Belgrade, the Serbian women told them, you need to sit down and you need to be quiet because we have something we want to say. And Ego's team said to her, don't let them push you around like that. Don't let them take control of the meeting. And Ego says that in her heart, she heard, shut up and listen. So that's what she told her team to do. And then the Serbian women all stood up, and they faced the Kosovo women, and they apologized on behalf of Serbian men who had perpetrated sexual violence against the Kosovo women. And then both groups bonded in their survivorhood. And when they went home, they were persecuted for having been in communication with the so-called enemy, for having built a bridge, for having been a bridge. So, I hardly know what to say after that. So we change because we have to. Peace is so difficult sometimes to grasp, and it takes deep courage to learn it. Peace building has often failed. Peacemaking missions with the UN have failed more often than they've succeeded. You know, Einstein said The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And unfortunately, that's what UN peacekeeping missions have sort of been about. But there is a growing awareness that in order for peace to have a chance, you need to involve local stakeholders and not just consult with them, but they need to be able to engineer the peace. And this means including young people. Now, young people are often referred to as future leaders, but my research and my teaching reveal that young people are present leaders, who are the leaders now. And young people often come up with creative, inexpensive, elegant, courageous solutions to conflict resolution. It is the young generation who builds these bridges. It is the young generation who can be these bridges. So we change because we have to. Otherwise, we're condemned to fighting the same wars that previous generations did. Does that sound familiar? And that is the courage of peace. I think that it's important to know that when people open their hearts, which opens their minds, that then their hearts open even a little bit more, which opens their minds even a little bit more. And the next thing you know, we find ourselves in a state that the founder of Taoism defined in this way. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. And if there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. See, I think this is what we call local peace, or global peace, which is how local community building contributes to global peace. The Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, who passed away 2 years ago, he wrote, "There is no way to peace. Peace is the way." Is this what some call equilibrium, which is the awareness and openness and accessibility to everyone and everything around us, and what others call enlightenment? Be the thing you are with. Which brings me to a project that is an example of all these processes. It's called Piece by Piece, and these 56 AUC students have co-created it with me since September 21. This online free access peacebuilding manual is based on interviews with youth peacebuilders around the world, from Mali to Colombia, to Myanmar, to the US, to Afghanistan. The students who have worked on this project say that it has given them deep joy. It's taught them gratitude, it's taught them peace privilege, and it's taught them about the nature of peace. This is a quote from one of the coordinators, and as you read it, I'll tell you that the Piece by Piece project got off to a very rough start. At first, we couldn't get any interviews. Youth peace builders are overworked and underpaid, and emails are real low on their priority list, until one of the AUC students came up with the idea, Celine Paré, of using LinkedIn instead of Facebook or more traditional networks. And soon we had 5 interviews. And then the project snowballed, and the 5 interviews became 25. And as the semesters went by, we got almost 100 interviews from all over the world. Now, you're going to see some quotes from some of our interviewees. An unexpected gift was the youth-on-youth dynamic. So by having young AUC students interviewing young peace builders, the trust was there almost right away. And the interviews went very deep. Somebody asked me, what do these peace builders do? Well, they are very creative. They use creativity to bring the so-called enemy groups together. They use art and dance and music. Education is an important part of it. They teach solution-oriented dialogue, critical thinking, how to create spaces, how to shut up and listen, and also how to step out of victimhood and into survivorhood. Now, the themes that emerged from our research, these are just a few of the themes. It's important to know your context. It's important to be persistent. Finances was a big challenge. There was intersectionality. It's much harder for young women peace builders to be taken seriously by adults than for young men. Security was an important theme. In many post-conflict countries, if you're a peace builder and you have contact with the so-called enemy, then you become not just an enemy in your own community, you become a traitor. And we actually have some participants who have withdrawn from the project because of safety reasons, even though we assured them they'd remain anonymous. And one of the, well, you could say that their takeaway is just make a small impact, just get started and trust the process. But one big theme that came out across the board, and it was a surprise to me with my biases, because I thought mental health was something that you had to afford to be concerned about. But no matter where it was, Myanmar, Afghanistan, people said, we have to have peace in our hearts before we can work on peace with others. So how did they get peace in their hearts, right? That's the key question. Meditation, 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 all over the world. Also relying on their religions, on their spirituality, but also the work itself helped heal these young peace builders. And working with other people and building peace with other young people or children helped heal them. So, yeah, peace in our hearts, which opens our minds. An important theme, also the last theme I'll tell you about, is that there was an entanglement, an interrelation between environmental activism and sustainable development and peace building. And these things were all mixed up together and intertwined with each other, which brings me to the definition of peace in the Torah. Webbing together of God and intertwining of humans and all creation and justice, fulfillment and delight. This is Shalom. Now the subtitle for the Piece by Piece project, with its almost 100 interviews, is 99 and You. Peace is like a puzzle where no one piece is exactly like another. In the Bible talks about the tree of life, the leaves of which are for the healing of the nations. For a long, long time, I thought that these leaves were our stories. And then last year, one of the project coordinators said to me, what if the leaves are us, our students, and you? So now I think we can all be peace builders, 99 and you. And we grow peace like a tree, each of us opening up our hearts like a leaf, because our hearts open our minds, and each of us becomes a piece of the puzzle. How do we put our world back together again? Piece by piece. Thank you.